Um, one of the one of the things that we want our young people to become like relatively skilled with the art of photography, whether it's digital or darkroom based. And so we want that. So the goal is to be able to get a young person, whether they come in with an interest in it initially, but no skill, or maybe they've done some photos, 99% of any young person has made photos on their phone. And that's one of the things that we've started adapting to is like reminding them that they're making images and they're seeing images all the time. And how do images get used? So one of the things that we do is we do a lot of what we call our photo shares, which in college or in art school, you would call it a critique. And early on, I decided that we're not going to call it a critique because young people get critiqued all the time, um, at school, at home. And so it's more the idea of like, we're going to share their photos. And by sharing them, they're also asking for feedback. They're also sharing their feedback with the other mentees. Mentors are offering feedback as well. And so we use that sort of model of a little less pressured and more openness, but getting them to really start to take ownership of the photos that they're making and also why they made the image. And so then at the end of every semester, we have a little showcase of the work that they've been making. In the fall, it's a more of a basic showcase of they've been making. And then in the spring, um, they have a larger showcase, which sometimes will be more of a proper exhibition. But one thing that we have is that every year we have a fundraiser. And in that fundraiser, we do a silent auction. And the silent auction features mentee and mentor work. And so we actually hang that work side by side. Staff also contribute, artists in the community contribute. So what we do is we get the mentees to really understand that their work is going to be professionally matted and framed and displayed on a wall in the space, and that people will come to support first exposures. And part of that process is bidding on and buying artwork created by the folks in our program. So this is often a real game changer for them, is to see that their artwork is on a wall and that it's being appreciated and that somebody felt it had value by buying it. Um, what we do in this process too is very simply, when we're making name tags for our mentors and mentees and staff and board, is the mentee name tags say first exposures artist. They don't say first exposures mentee. They don't even say youth artist. They just say first exposures artist. And so we really encourage them to own that title, that they made art and that their art has value. And so we do have exhibitions. We have an exhibition up currently right now, that's actually it's a 25 finalists from a California state competition that the Getty Museum hosted, alongside of our youth are paired with those photos as well in our space. Um, we have exhibitions in galleries, museums. We've done public art where we've had their work actually done as bus shelters and kiosk posters. We've also done a little bit of guerrilla art making where we've wheat pasted art, and shown them how to kind of create that aspect of sharing their art. We've also done publications where there's books and zines that we've done with their artwork in it. So they have something that they can also tangibly share with people and own for a while. Um, and then another component of this, of them sort of building a little more self-efficacy and really learning that they're growing as an artist and that they're becoming a photographer, is we host a free community portrait event every year, where we partner with the Women's Building, which is a community center nonprofit that hosts a lot of organizations primarily dealing with a lot of undocumented women and families, and getting them social services. So what we do is we go into their space, we set up photo studios, and our mentees are the photographers and create family portraits, individual portraits, and then our mentors and other volunteers in the community help then frame and print and frame those photos to give to these members of the community. But the mentees are the photographers, and they work in pairs. They're helping to art direct. They get to make these portraits, and they get to understand like who else is in the community, and it's an opportunity for them to give back, something that they enjoy every year and they really love and wait for. And so the idea is to let them start to own what they've learned and realize that it's not just making photos. It's this idea that they're doing something powerful. They're making a portrait of somebody that may be the first time that this person's ever had a real professional portrait made of them. Or they're having their artwork exhibited on the wall in a gallery. And it may just be an exhibition where the work's not for sale, but their work is being treated seriously and professionally. And then in our fundraiser, their work is getting purchased, and that work helps support the program. So we really try to push for that, to get them that they're doing something meaningful. And so we see this sort of level of self-efficacy and empowerment that they get really starts to transfer into confidence building. And I'll just share really quickly. We always ask a mentee to speak at our annual fundraiser to sort of share their perspective, their story. Typically, it's something where I'm asking them, I'm asking a young person, hey, would you be willing to speak at our event? This year, for the first time ever, one of our youth advisory board members shared with us back in February his college essay that he wrote. This is a mentee that that is on the autism spectrum. He's got pretty serious ADHD. Started our program when he was about 13 or 14, was very quiet, shy, awkward, not great in larger settings. He shared his essay with us about his college essay, which was all about how finding photography and first exposures and having a mentor helped him, as he said in his essay, navigate the chaos in his brain. And so he started to use photography as a way of sort of processing his way of thinking and being able to create images that worked for him. And so he volunteered to share that essay and to speak at our event. And knowing his usual comfort level and awkwardness, I made sure to give him time to really think about it, to give him an out if he felt like it was too overwhelming or too much. And he decided that as a graduating senior, that he wanted to do this. He felt it was important for him to be able to get to that level, to that space, to go in front of a room of 300 to 400 people and share his story. And he did it. And he took it super seriously. He was very cute. He worked with his drama teacher at high school to practice. And he gave us a bunch of images. We asked him what images did he want to share while he was speaking. And he did it. And he just felt that it was important for other people to know what it's like to have that background and he realized that using photography was the tool for him to help him feel confident to be able to go on to college and to do what he wants to do with life. It gave him a voice that he didn't always necessarily feel comfortable saying with words, but he could do it through his photography. And he's been a commissioned artist. Actually, the UCSF here in San Francisco, about 3 years ago, built a new family psychiatry building, and UCSF actually contracted with First Exposures to create the artwork in this space because they wanted youth photography and youth art to be in the space. And they commissioned 4 of our mentees in particular to be featured in this exhibition, and he was one of them. And that was pretty special for him. And so his work is now in the permanent collection at this UCSF psychiatry building. So I think the idea of giving them a chance to see their work in public, to do something with their skills as a photographer, um, is sort of a big way that we see results. I think back to last thing I'll say on this is early on in the program when I took over, I decided to do a book about what first exposures was about. And I reached out to the different people involved in running the program over the years prior to my involvement. And one of the things funders always ask, one of the things that people always ask is, has anyone famous ever been in your program? Has anyone in your program ever gone on to do photography commercially and become a famous photographer or well known? And when I was doing this, I didn't really know, and it wasn't really at the forefront for me. But I asked this guy who ran the program, and his words were, it's not about creating the next kick-ass photographer, it's about creating the next kick-ass human being. And as much as I don't ever use the word kick-ass in my typical language, it really summed it up for me. And so I use that as an example of what it's about, is by giving them this outlet, we're helping them just become hopefully a more confident and stronger like adult and a human. So